Hare Krishna, everybody, and welcome to our day 3 of the online Vaishnavi retreat. I hope you all enjoying the presentation so far. I'm one of your co-hosts today. I'm Tishani, and we have Priya Kishori online as well. And we're going to be presenting a nice topic from Ambika Devi Dasi today. As you know, we're all separated due to this quarantine, and I don't speak to my Sadhvi Sangha members, so I'd just like to introduce Priya Kishori. Priya, how are you?
Hare Krishna, Tishani. It's so good to see you, and so good to be connected to everyone in this platform. This weekend has been really amazing, and I'm sure you can all agree that we've had such amazing association despite not being able to go to temples or associate with our friends. Today we have an amazing speaker, Ambika Devi Dasi, and she will be presenting creating solid foundations for a lifetime of service. And personally, I think this is such an amazing topic, especially as a young Vaishnavi who, sometimes we don't see the end goal. We just see what's going on in the present. It's good to get your insight today. So I'd like to hand over to Tishani, who will introduce Ambika Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so Ambika Devi Dasi, through the mercy and great compassion of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, she joined ISKCON in Sydney 1971. In April 1972, during Srila Prabhupada's visit there, she had the good fortune to accept him as her spiritual master. In January of 1974, she went to the Bombay Juhu temple for about 3.5 years. This was the best time of her life because Srila Prabhupada came there so often. Her service was Radha Rasi Bihari's seva and life membership. Altogether, she served in India 6 years before returning to Melbourne, Australia. For the sake of her children, she moved to New Govardhan Farm in 1982. She taught for 15 years in the Gurukul there. Her present service is some deity worship, running the Women's Mentorship Program, and having active engagement in our Vaishnavi care programs. I feel very blessed. She feels very blessed and privileged to be able to take the wonderful society of Vaishnavas, which is spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world. And I will now hand over to the beloved Ambika Devi Dasi. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So I was just going to start off with some prayers and then go on from there. Hare Krishna. Greetings to all the Vaishnavas. You're all very dear to Krishna, and I feel very fortunate to be able to take this opportunity to speak, even though I can honestly say that though I may be senior in years, I'm not senior in advancement. And there are many such wonderful senior devotees who are able to share with you so much more than me, so please bear with me. Because the topic was to create a lifetime of service, I thought that to speak on creating solid foundations. Because if we don't create solid foundations, then our building that we're creating can so easily collapse. So there's always that analogy of the hare and the tortoise. The hare races ahead, but can't quite make it to the finishing line. But we want to be the tortoise in the sense that we want to have strong foundations and we want to make it through to a whole lifetime of service. So the basis for this Hare Krishna movement is the chanting of Hare Krishna. And there's one quote from Srila Prabhupada where he states that he's written all his books just so that we will chant Hare Krishna, which is pretty amazing. So it is the center of our movement, this chanting of Hare Krishna. So, of course, there's kirtan. I wanted to focus on japa, that time that we take alone to chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And I've kind of stolen from Satchidananda Swami because he's had various seminars around the place on improving our chanting in Australia and other places, and they're very wonderful. And so I have used his formula. Now, I don't know if this screen sharing has come up, has it? Is it possible to share this on the screen? Ah, great, thank you so much. Okay, so let's go through this, these tips for nice chanting. So first of all, in preparation for chanting the holy names, this is a sankalpa or a vow that we're performing every day. So first of all, before any sankalpa, we state our objective, we state our goal. So in this case, our goal is to focus on the holy names. So before starting, we can offer our respects to Sri Nam Prabhu and offer our respects to Krishna. My little process is in the mornings before I chant. First of all, I'll offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada in my mind and offer him a garland and touch his lotus feet. And then I'll chant the Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Panchatattva mantra, and to each of those I offer respects at their lotus feet. Offer them a garland, all different types of fragrant flowers, and then touch their lotus feet. And then finally to Radha and Krishna, to offer obeisances to them, to offer beautiful lotus garlands and touch their lotus feet. So that's, and to offer obeisances to Sri Nam Prabhu. So that's before we start. So I've divided this up into two sections after that. The method, which is like the physical method, and the mood. So the physical tips are posture. In order to nice focus, we need to sit comfortably and keep our back straight. So it needs to be comfortable because we're going to sit there for a couple of hours, but we also need to keep our back straight. We need fresh air, we can open windows, and it's quite a good idea to do some deep breathing before beginning because that helps us to focus. And generally, if you can close your eyes, then you don't get distracted by what you're seeing around you. Not everybody likes to do that, but it's an aid if you can sit in a comfortable place, straight back, and close your eyes. So regarding pronunciation, we have to, Prabhupada explains, it's in there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we have to keep our lips and tongue clearly used for chanting the Mahamantra. So we have to enunciate clearly. So sometimes we can ask a friend, we can actually tape ourselves chanting and ask a friend, is that clear? Just so we know. Because we don't want to fall into bad habits. So one time, Rosarani, my godsister, my lovely godsister, and I, twice actually, we've done 18 types of japa for a skit. And, there are some pretty funny ones amongst there, the dive bomber japa, the jippa japa, the native walk, when you're having a walk around nature and chatting away, the TV japa. There's all kinds of 18 different types. So we don't want any of these types of japa. We really want to concentrate. So we're going to use our lips and tongues to enunciate clearly. And the next one is listening. So we're focusing on each mantra. Every single mantra is important. We don't want to neglect Krishna. We want to make every name count. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, it's in the vocative form. The grammar form is the vocative, which means you're calling out to someone, you're speaking to someone. So we don't want to neglect the Lord when we're speaking to him. So those are the physical tips. And notice I outlined the PPL. So you've got your posture, pronunciation, and listening. So the reason I outlined them is because it's a pretty simple thing to keep in your mind, PPL. And then for the mood, we've got PCL, which we're coming to now. So for our mood, this is what we're setting our heart to before we chant. And the mood requires humility. So the first one is a prayer that despite having no good qualities, we're asking Krishna to please bless us as we glorify him through his holy name. So I have nothing to offer, but Lord Krishna, you are supremely compassionate. So please be kind and allow me to call out your names with some sincerity in my heart. A second one is connection. So it's kind of like when we say I'm Krishna's, it's pretty much, that would probably be accepted in most religions, that, I belong to God. It's kind of like Christianity will, accept that I belong to God. But Krishna is mine is a little bit more advanced. So when we're chanting, we need to really connect up with Krishna, that I belong to Krishna and Krishna is mine. So a sense of connection. So if we practice that sense of ownership in relation to Krishna, it means that when we're chanting, we'll have that consciousness in our minds that Krishna is mine. It's a beautiful consciousness. So in the Padma Purana, there's a statement that when one develops an unflinching sense of ownership or possessiveness in relation to Krishna, that this is called bhakti. So this feeling of connection brings us close to Krishna. And then the final one is longing. So as we chant, we are yearning to chant with full absorption. We're longing to suffuse our chanting with love, and we're thinking, when will that day come? So, it may take years, it may take lifetimes even, but we long for that time, because that time when we actually can chant with that full absorption and we have that feeling of longing, that's the time when Krishna grants us success. In the Nectar of Devotion, this samutkanta means complete eagerness. So it's explained there that this samutkanta is the price for achieving success. That's our price. So there's also in the very next page on Nectar of Devotion, it's described that we can hope against hope, asha bandha. So we've got that PPL for posture, pronunciation, and listening. That's the physical state. And then the mood is PCL, prayer, connection, and longing. So we set ourselves up for the physical side, and then we set our heart up for the heart connection. You know, the prayer, the feeling of connection, and the feeling of longing to be able to chant Krishna's name with absorption and with some devotion. So what I find is sometimes when you're chanting and you're just sort of not able to really feel like fully connected or feeling those feelings of longing, then that's the time to return back to the physical. So you return back to concentrating on your posture, your pronunciation, and your listening. And once you've gone on with that for some time, then again you can start entering this prayerful sort of connection mood. So what I was hoping is, if you don't mind, if we can all just chant for 2 minutes, because, you know, it's not a long session. Can we please chant for 2 minutes? You don't have to have your japa beads. Just being mindful of these two sort of steps in our chanting. So if you can feel that longing and connection, then that's our goal. And we'll start off with that goal. But if by chance your mind starts to slip, then move back to that concentrating on the pronunciation and listening. And then again, after a little bit of time, again, hopefully we can enter into that mood of connection with Krishna. So just for 2 minutes, starting now, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I hope that was helpful for you. Chanting, of course, it takes a long time to really establish nice chanting. So we're practicing every day and praying every day to have that connection. So I hope that's helpful for you. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is Vaishnavi Sangam, because we've got chanting and hearing and association. And really, if we're chanting and hearing and we're able to associate in a nice way with the devotees, we have then created solid foundations for our lifetime in devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada, in the Nectar of Instruction, he explains that he created ISKCON in order to facilitate the 6 kinds of exchanges, giving and receiving gifts, giving and receiving prasadam. And the ones that I wanted to talk on today is revealing one's mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially. So our friendships with each other are extremely precious. And I'm sure you all appreciate, having wonderful devotees around to associate with. So that bond is a bond of love that we have with the other Vaishnavas. But if we want to create that solid foundation for good friendships, in our early days, unfortunately, we didn't understand this at all. We really didn't, we're like brothers and sisters, but we didn't have any kind of really depth of understanding of the value of devotee, of each other's association. It was like, oh, you're in Mahaprabhu, get up. But now things have moved on, and devotees are starting to understand the importance and the sort of the glory of each other. I mean, really, we're just so fortunate. So in order to create strong foundations for friendship, our friendships have to be based on respecting each other's nice qualities, and actually kind of like devotees actually push each other up. In the material world, people want to push people down in order to become superior. But the consciousness follows the way you push. So if you push people down, your consciousness goes down. But devotees understand that we are pushing people up. We push the devotees up. We respect them. We appreciate their qualities. We share with them that we appreciate their qualities. And by that, our consciousness goes up. We're not intentionally doing that, but because we're offering the devotees respect and trying to assist them in their devotional service, then actually that's a help for us. That's the nice thing about devotional service. So, and also when we do, glorify each other's nice qualities, then what that does is that helps to soften our own hearts. That helps us. So if we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, anytime there's some exchanges and devotees are questioning great sages, you will read that the devotees that are waiting, or the sages that are waiting for those answers, they glorify the speaker. Not only that, the devotees I'm sorry. Turn this off. Sorry, the devotees actually, the speaker will actually glorify the devotees. So that is it's an art. It's an art that's not practiced these days. When you hear the time that's taken, like we're just doing the third canto right now, the time that the demigods take to glorify Krishna, it's done very nicely. So it's the reason it's an art, and it's also a form of bhakti to take that time to glorify the devotees. So, okay, so sometimes that's the first sort of point, to be respectful and polite and try to elevate the devotees that we are speaking with. And the second thing is, sometimes there are times of distress, and you really have to listen and not jump in and allow people to just let it all out. In Australia, we call it, I don't know if you call it, we call it a pity party. So someone might need to have a pity party where they just need to let it all out, and so we're there to hear. And that's sometimes necessary. The material world's a tough place. Dukhalaya Shashvatam, Krishna says it himself. So that's one of the aspects of listening. Next thing is to practice to repeat what you're reading, repeat what you've realized, repeat what you've heard from classes, and to sort of open up the conversation so that devotees can contribute to their own realizations, and sort of it pulls everybody up from the mundane level. It elevates the consciousness. And the other, number 4, is to reveal your heart in confidence. So when we're revealing our heart in confidence, we really need to do that with someone we trust completely. And we kind of need to understand when we're doing that or hearing that our hearts are very precious. And I was just listening to Prabhupada saying the other day in a class, Krishna wants your heart. He wants our hearts. So when we do open up, we can actually practice opening up. And if we're closed and keep our heart closed, how's Krishna going to get in there, you know? So we practice. We practice by opening up our hearts and confiding with devotees. And it's very, I'm sure you all practice these things, but they're very nurturing. It's a nurturing experience. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but once you sort of commit to that, then it's a very rewarding experience. So we know that to talk about Krishna gives us bliss, tushanticha. It gives us great satisfaction and bliss. That's there in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, and we've all experienced that. So there are some ways that you can, as Vaishnavis, and I'm sure you do these things, but just some suggestions to create a reading circle, for example. We have a Chaitanya Charitamrita reading group. We're just reading with CC, and then we talk if we have some realizations, otherwise we'll go on. It's very sweet just to sit in the company of other devotees and read and discuss realizations. Another one, of course, is to create study groups, and I'm sure that's very important for devotees who are doing various bhakti shastris, etc. If you can create a study group, it kind of assists you in your own study, and it helps you clear your mind, and you can compare your sort of understandings. You can learn shlokas together. And another thing that we've been doing is, you can also do, is create like a Bhagavatam buddy. It doesn't have to be a Bhagavatam. So the wonderful aspect of modern day life is we've got so much technology. For example, we've got WhatsApp. So if you jump onto WhatsApp, you can either leave a message or you can speak straight. So with the Bhagavatam buddy, what we do is myself and Rasarani, and I've got other god sisters that do this too, and everybody really has a lot of good feedback about it. So you may get more than just one, but one's easy because you can always manage to hear that you've got enough time to hear one person and give your realization. So all we do is we read a verse of Bhagavatam and then we give our realizations. So, it may be between 4 and 8 minutes. It's not very long. And then the other person reads and gives their realizations, in my case, Rasarani. And you'd be surprised, we're reading the same verse, we're reading the same purport, but blow me down, her realizations are often so different. And what she picks up, and I'm thinking, how did I not read that? Or, she may feel the same thing, because everybody's different and you have different understandings, but it's very relishable. And then the next day we'll discuss, I really liked what you said about so-and-so. Well, that made a good impact, and yeah, that's very funny, or whatever it is. So it's a really nice, Bhagavatam Buddy is a really nice way, especially now, can't go to Bhagavatam classes, except online, of course, but it's a nice way to have a friendship, to develop a friendship, and to develop, naturally, a closer sort of relationship with Srimad Bhagavatam, or you can do nectar devotion or whatever you like. But it's a really nice way to exchange. So our moon as Vaishnavis is service to each other. When we see another Vaishnavi, our mood has to be that we want to serve this devotee when we're going to meet and talk. So how can I serve other Vaishnavis? So Krishna has somehow allowed us to associate with each other. What can I give to assist this devotee or these devotees, inspire them? So, of course, it'd be too easy to just sit down and talk about this and that. There was an incident with Upendra. He was outside Prabhupada's rooms in Vrindavan asking, when devotees came from LA, what's happening with this guy? What's happening with this one? And Prabhupada told him, don't gossip. So, of course, we want to find out if, the devotees are doing well. But, it's just to, it's not our priority to find out what this one's up to and what that one's up to, unless it's like, particularly for service. So the things that we can give to inspire and assist other devotees is we can, first of all, give empathy. Because here we are, we're all Vaishnavis, we're all sisters, and we can give kindness, and we can give open ears. That is, we can hear without judgment. And we can also pass on our realizations and find out others' realizations. This is a wonderful way to associate, and it sort of cuts out a lot of unnecessary chit-chat. Of course, friendly chit-chat is one thing, but the purpose is to move on and get a little deeper with each other. And we can think, when we have an exchange with somebody, what will this devotee walk away with? What will they take with them? What has been spoken that's going to be of value to them? So I must say my enduring memories of Srila Prabhupada's darshans in Bombay to do with the way he just dealt so wonderfully with the people that came, because, we would be up on the rooftops, we would get just that wonderful time with Srila Prabhupada. I was there for 3.5 years. Prabhupada came so many times. We would be up on the roof having darshan, and the devotees would come. Maybe they'd be talking about the progress of the building of the Juhu temple, if they were involved in the building, or so many things. And various life members would come, and like famous film stars would come, because they all love Prabhupada. So when they would come in to see Srila Prabhupada, it was always just striking to me. First of all, he'd be so polite to them. namaste, aye, he'd ask how their family was, and please sit. And he'd make them completely comfortable and completely at home. But it was just so quick, and then bam, he'd be talking about Krishna. He could move the conversation in the twinkling of an eye. It was such an art. Every day I'd just be amazed the way he moved the conversation. No one was unhappy, or everybody would just go along because his business is to give Krishna. That's our business too. So somehow or another, if we're expert, we can provide that respect and kindness, and then move the conversation on to Krishna. Because everybody, when they walked out of those darshans, just felt totally satisfied. You'd be in those darshans and you just feel like you're in the spiritual world. There may be this friction, that friction with this one or that one, but when you were in that room in front of Srila Prabhupada, you just felt completely in bliss, completely removed to the spiritual world. You just felt like you just loved all the devotees, and it was so nice. And that was because because of Srila Prabhupada's elevation and the fact that he resided in the spiritual world. But it was just really great to see how he could turn the conversation. So that's something that we can practice, to associate with Vaishnavis with that in mind, that we want to tap into their higher self, because we're souls, and we want the best for them. So when we do speak, of course, we're always speaking in a loving way. And even I found that if you have to speak to somebody, if there's a problem and you have to speak to somebody, maybe you have to make some correction. You can make that correction by, they always say sandwich, but many things. You can talk about their nice qualities, and then you can bring up what has to be changed, and then again, so that they'll feel that love, they'll feel that empathy coming from you. It's not ego, it's not on the false ego platform. So it's a bit of an art, this art of, it is an art to associate nicely with the devotees. So we do it with empathy, we do it with love, but we're trying to serve the devotees, the Vaishnavis, by giving Krishna in a way that will inspire them. So when you think about it, we are headed for Goloka. We are headed for Goloka, and what happens in Goloka Vrindavan? We're serving Krishna and we're associating with the devotees. So this is our practice area, how to associate nicely with devotees. And of course, Krishna is there seeing that we're associating nicely, and then that pleases him. So, and I recently heard Vaisheshiki saying that when he's out on the streets, he says to people, "You look spiritual." So that sort of taps into their spiritual side. So, we can do that too with the devotees, And you look enlivened, what have you been reading? And so what's inspiring you, we can ask. So we can use all these just sort of little aids to help us to associate nicely. So I just wondered if you could all do a little homework exercise, and that is, think of some Vaishnavi that you may have had some difficulty with. Think of their nice qualities. Think of the nice qualities, and the next time you meet them, when it's appropriate, speak to them. Tell them the things that you appreciate about them. It's actually a really nice thing to do, and it's very helpful for you, and it's very nice for them. So Yes, I was going to tell you a story about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, one time his devotees went to complain about somebody in the ashram, and they were saying, oh, Maharaj, this person's a lazy fellow. He won't help out with the service in the temple. He's not even clean. And, so this is quite a few of them had all gone to sort of complain. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, does he have any good qualities? And they said, well, he likes to preach. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, oh, he likes to preach. Conversation finished. Nothing more to be said. So that's our mood when we're associating. So I just wanted to read a tiny little bit, because I know that we've got to keep time for questions, a tiny little bit about something I read recently where Srila Prabhupada was looking at a painting of Bhishmadev lying on a bed of arrows. And then he said that Krishna's back was always to Krishna, but Bhishma was able to see the beautiful face of the reservoir of beauty throughout the war. And then he said, Krishna takes the bright side, even with enemies. And he explained, Putana, she is coming, just like my mother. So Krishna then made her his maidservant in Vaikuntha, in Goloka. His nursemaid. So then he told the story of the thief that wanted to steal from Krishna, went to Vrindavan to steal the jewels of Krishna. And of course, when he asked to take the jewels, Krishna said, no, you can't have them. Mother Yasoda will be upset. And on it went. But because of that association, because Krishna saw that, he came, he wanted to see me, so he allowed that devotee then to surrender and become a devotee. So Prabhupada told that story, and then he says, the meaning is, if there is a slight spark of devotion to someone who comes to our temple, we should fan that spark, make it fire. We should take the bright side, like Krishna, and encourage the person's devotion. So, my dear Vaishnavis, if this is our mood, then devotees will give their very best. And they'll give their best to Guru and to Krishna. And the Vaishnava dealings will be harmonious. This is not a place of harmony, the material world. But Prabhupada wanted unity in diversity. So we have to respect that diversity. But the way we can have unity and harmony is to have kindness in our dealings and love in our dealings. I'm sure you all follow these things, but it's just sort of like to remind myself too. So the other thing I just wanted to quickly mention is that we have a mentoring program in New Govardhan, a women's mentoring program. That is that an older devotee is linked to a newer devotee. I've actually sent the guidelines through so that they're available here with the devotees that are running this wonderful course, Vaishnavi Retreat. It's very simple. You meet for half an hour a week with your mentor. The mentee just has to agree to figure out a time and a place where they can meet with the mentor, and it's a half hour. The only other obligation is maybe if there's a meeting with management and they would like you to come. And of course, the obligation of the mentor is total confidentiality. It's a really nice program. It's just pretty simple, half an hour a week and one-on-one. That's the main thing. It's a one-on-one thing. For me, I sort of try to match up the personalities that I feel would fit together well. We've had it running for a few years in New Govardhan, and it's been very successful. So, you may have mentor programs going on, but they are very valuable and helpful. So, I was going to talk about, nectar of instruction, enthusiasm, utsaha, nischayat, confidence, and determination and tariyat, patience and perseverance. But those are the things that we have to have. Again, if we're creating strong foundations, we have to have these three qualities. So because there's no time, I just wanted to make the one point. One point is that sometimes we can be enthusiastic. Sometimes we can be determined, confident, but sometimes it all falls apart. So at that time, we fall back to patience and we wait. We wait, just like Prabhupada said when he's talking about this nectar of instruction. For that first year, nobody was coming. You know, Prabhupada was struggling alone, but he was patient. So when things are not going well, and we don't feel that enthusiasm or determination, we can revert to feeling patient and knowing that if we just follow this process, those feelings of enthusiasm will return. So I just wanted to see now if there are some questions from the devotees about anything. I've talked about the chanting, the Mahamantra, japa, and associating with Vaishnavas.
Hare Krishna. We actually have a lot of questions coming through. I don't know if you'd like the participants to ask them, or is it okay if I ask them on their behalf?
It doesn't matter, whatever's
Okay,
easier.
cool. All right, so the one we have from, okay, I'll just read it out if that's okay. So this question goes, thinking about a lifetime of service that the foundation is based on our practice of japa, I've just been thinking that the ability to chant requires courage, a courage to cross the liminal space from our material attachments to the rest in the faith that Krishna will catch and keep us in his embrace in the process, that we will not fall in the in-between space that we think we know and what truly is. May you please share your thoughts on the fact that chanting requires a certain level of courage? And the question is, does it? Sorry.
Well, to dedicate yourself to any of the 9 processes, I guess there is courage required, because it's a long road. It's not something that you just do once. So in a sense, yes, you do require courage to go forward and feel like you're not going to fall through the cracks. But always we have this kind of overriding understanding that because we're entering into this particular vrata, say, of chanting, that Krishna is with us, Krishna is like sheltering us and providing us with the qualities that we need to go forward in our japa or in our seva. So yes, courage, but Krishna provides all those things. He carries what we lack and preserves what we have. Yeah, so I think, sorry, that's probably all I can say on that.
We also have a lot of positive comments coming through. I'll just read one out from Facebook. That was very nice to chant together. It helped me focus much better. I like that you are talking about chanting, Mataji. It's something I'm constantly trying to improve, to focus and go deeper, which is not so easy. So that's from Facebook. Someone actually wanted to know about the 18 japa types. If you have the time.
I asked my friend who Rasarani if she could send it through, and she's sending it through tonight too late. So what I can do is I'll send it through to the email here for your South African retreat, and then you can contact them. It's just very funny. It was really funny, and it was appreciated. We did it at a Vaishnava retreat, and the devotees just loved it. And then it was kind of like, at the next retreat, okay, you have to do that skit again.
Japa Japa. So we have we have a few more questions coming through. So I'm just going to paraphrase the next one. It's basically someone who has the mindset that when you take initiation, or whoever takes initiation is a pure soul or realized soul, and they rather not take the initiation because they can remain doing their service, and I guess they feel that they're not so qualified. How can someone inspire them to take up initiation?
Well, look, all you have to do is think back to our state when Prabhupada gave us initiation. Really, I don't know, of course, a lot of my godbrothers and godsisters were probably more elevated, but we were just off the hippie train, most of us, and completely unqualified, completely on the mundane platform, didn't really know what we were doing when we got initiated. But initiation is so important for that eternal connection to the spiritual master. And it's never the fact that we have to get to a pure state and then take initiation. It's like we are required, like in 6 months or whatever, I don't know what the amount of time is required, just to prove that we can keep up with our chanting and the regulative principles. But then, by all means, take initiation, because it's like the springboard to go further, and you're depriving yourself if you don't want to do that. Anyway.
Thank you so much for that. So the next question is, considering that our prayer is to be engaged in service continuously, is it okay to say no to devotional service? When is it okay to, and when or how do we distinguish saying no versus holding ourselves back from devotional service? This is something that I think a lot of us need help with. So basically, how do we discriminate when to say yes or no?
We really need to be being conscious of that long, the hare and the tortoise, the long way to go, and being thoughtful about what we can take. And really, women are such martyrs, in general, just take on too much. It's just such a tendency. We've all done it, and okay, Prabhu, yes, yes. And then you're thinking, oh God, not 4 hours sleep, now it's going to be 3 hours sleep a night. But we have to be sensible. And once again, we want to create, this is talking about creating a lifetime of service. So we don't want to burn out, and it's pretty easy to burn out if you just got too much on your plate. So it takes a little bit of stepping back, we really need to, they're just like those traffic lights, that I remember Satyanandan Swami did a seminar on the Tree of Life. So, when someone asks something, we've got to stop. That's the red light, stop. And then the amber light, we have to really think about it, contemplate it. Don't just shoot ahead, but think about it. What does it mean? What are the repercussions? And how am I going to manage this? And then make a considered answer. And it's not an offense to say no. It's not an offense at all to say no. And especially if you are explaining to the person that at the moment, my service means I feel fully engaged. If I do this, it's going to create a lot of difficulty for me, and I don't feel like at the moment I can handle that. So we kind of have to have a little bit of wisdom to not always say no. I know it's so easy for women. It's just so easy, and then you sort of start to feel guilty, and it's nonsense, really. We have to protect our little bush of devotional service, from all sorts of things, and that's one of them. That over endeavor, because we want our bush to grow and flower, and that won't be if we're sort of squashing it, by taking on too much.
And sometimes it feels like a burden more than devotional service.
That's right. You don't want devotional service to feel like a burden. What is this? Devotional service is blissful. So yeah, it's that question. And because women have to bring up children, and there's so much sort of pushing yourself in the background at that time, sacrifice. So it's very easy for women to sort of go into that martyr state where, yeah, I've just got to push myself back here, you know. But that's not the wise thing to do. We just really have to be thoughtful about things, stop a little bit and think before we say yes. And never to think that it's an offense to say no. I mean, you know, I like to say yes too, but these days I really sort of think about it first.
So the next question is actually from my mother asking, so she spends a lot of time with her children and that affects her time to get, you know, good association. What can she do to, you know, nourish that aspect of her life?
Well, this is the good thing about WhatsApp, you know, because you can just send that little message. If you've got a buddy, you send that message whenever it's convenient for you. And then the other person, they listen and answer when it's convenient for them. So that really works well in this case. I know motherhood is so difficult. It's so trying, you know. But that's one advantage of things like WhatsApp, you know. And also, you know, there's classes available and, you know, there's so much available on the internet. But of course, you know, that has to be balanced with, you know, spending a nice amount of time with your children and etc. But yeah, I think that and also, you know, like even if you sort of catch a page, you know, and copy out a page and have it around the house, and you're reading that page and studying that page, maybe it's from Nectar of Devotion. You know, you might highlight a few things and you can just stick it on the door when you go in the kitchen or whatever. And, you know, there are ways and means to do that so that you can, especially things that particularly grab you, if you can print them out or have them on your phone so that you can listen. Yeah, there are many little tricks for taking in things that really enliven you these days. You know, it wasn't so much for us. We had to sort of breastfeed with the Bhagavatam up in the air, you know. But nowadays there's lots better means. You know.
So the next question is, what does revealing our hearts mean, and how do we understand whom to reveal our hearts to?
Okay, so revealing our hearts are our inner feelings, like beyond all the superficial things. Our heart, inside our hearts, it's our deep feelings. And as far as finding the person that you can reveal them to, you really have to develop a relationship where you can completely trust someone. It may be a peer, it may be someone senior, and it does take some time to create that trust. But we don't want to wait too long, you know what I mean? So once you feel like, yes, I can trust this person, then you can talk to them about the feelings that are going on inside, the difficulties, the challenges, the happiness you feel over, you know, like certain of those 9 processes. Everybody has attraction to the 9 processes. So yeah, it needs to be a person who is very loving and empathetic, but also has a little wisdom to sort of analyze what you're saying and give you something that's going to be of value, you know. Yeah, so that's something you cultivate with your relationships, that person who you feel can give you something that's very valuable. Yeah.
So the next question is with regards to chanting. The question is, if someone has had like an emotional or traumatic experience previously, and this affects their mind, especially when they're chanting, what advice would you give them to redirect their focus and to take shelter of the holy name?
Okay, so pretty much probably all of us have had traumatic experiences sometime in our life. But the time for japa is really, it's a time to set aside whatever is traumatizing. Really, one should deal with something that's traumatizing us, because if it's going to stop us in our spiritual life, that is not very advantageous for us. So if it can be dealt with by seeing someone professional, or there are various avenues, then that's probably the best thing. But also it's a practice that at that time of japa, this is why it's good to do it in the japa early in the morning, because the mind's not too crazy then. So at that time of japa, we are placing that. Sometimes you can sort of physically pull it out of your mind and sit it on a chair, or sit it in the next room, or make a practice of getting it out of your mind. You're going to remove it from your mind only temporarily. It just has to be for the time that you're chanting. So for 2 hours, you're going to take it up later on. It's like you're going to put it aside, chant your rounds, focus and call out to Krishna, and then you can take it back later on. Not that we really want you to take it back, but that's the problem. If it hasn't been dealt with, it's going to keep coming back. But for that japa time, somehow or another, find some mechanical means of sort of pulling it out of your mind, placing it in a basket or something and carrying it away, so that while you're chanting, that's not going to impede your time with Krishna. And then later on, come back to your problem. And it's an art, and it's something that you have to practice. It's not easy. And if you are having that problem, well, just go back to this PPL, sit with good posture, pronounce carefully, and listen. At least that's a mechanical thing. Even if you're not able at that time to beg Krishna to help you, to be there, to connect with Krishna, at least for that time, for some time at least, you can just do the mechanical side. And even listening, that's purifying. If you're listening to the holy name, that is completely purifying. So, I empathize with that person. It's terrible and there's so many people that suffer traumas in this age. That's really difficult. But somehow or another, the soul is above the mind. It's the mind telling you about the trauma, but the soul is above the mind. So somehow or another, we're connecting up with the soul for that 2 hours, and trying to remove the sort of kind of, I can't think of the word, the DOS of the mind for that time. So I wish you all good luck. It's not easy.
Okay, the next one is similar to the previous question when it's referred to japa, but this question is asking, what is silent japa? I think they mentioned 3 types, and then the third one is silent japa that you do in your mind. Can you please elaborate on that?
Okay, so Haridas Thakur, he did 64 rounds of whispering. Then he did 64 rounds of Hare Krishna, and then he did 64 rounds of loud. Yeah. So I don't know if they mean the whisper, or it is actually, it's a little difficult to do japa in the mind. Sometimes, of course, when we leave the body, we're going to be chanting Krishna's names in our mind, but to do that 2 hours of japa in the mind is a little difficult. Therefore, it's recommended that we chant and we hear. But, I have known devotees, older devotees, who were, having trouble, and they had to chant their rounds in their mind. So it's the same process. You're praying to Krishna, you're putting aside your mental activities for that 2 hours, and simply in your mind chanting you're chanting, you're saying the words, you're hearing them in your mind, but you're just not articulating them. So if you have to, chant like that, that happens sometimes. And I know that devotees have been forced to do that, but it's just a lot easier. And the idea of the whispering, speaking out as at this volume, or loudly as Haridas did, those three things, is that the sense of speaking and hearing is going on. You're listening. It is a little harder to listen in the mind, but I know that some devotees have to do that.
Thank you for that. The next question. So this Vaishnavi says, I've been in the background of Krishna consciousness for 10 years, in and out. But due to my lesser determination, lack of patience and endeavor to fight the struggles, I didn't really become serious in my practice. Do you think a mentorship program will help me? I want to deepen my japa, 4 regulative principles and books for a couple of years before I take up a mentorship program. What do you suggest?
I'd suggest taking up a mentor right now. Why wait? Who knows what tomorrow brings? Yes, if we usually, like here, I sort of figure out the fitting together. So you really have to have a program set up so that somebody is able to match up the devotees, the mentors and the mentees. So that program would have to be running to do that. Otherwise, you could just actually really go to an older devotee that you trust and request, would you take the part of a mentor for me? So there's nothing wrong with doing that. If there's no mentorship program set up, you could do that. So you'd have to discuss with them what your expectations were and what they could offer you as a mentor and a mentee. But I would suggest the quicker you do that, the better, because if you're wanting to deepen your Krishna consciousness, then that will help you. That if you have a mentor who's got your back, it's like having somebody in your corner for you. So that mentor is willing you to succeed and wanting to help you, and it's a very nice relationship. And I would suggest don't stay in the background. Come forward, take up a mentor, either in a program or somebody, go and ask them. But ASAP.
Thank you for that. I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we'll end off with the feedback session, if that's okay. So this question is, when it comes to preaching and services, this Vaishnavi has to compromise because, she has a devotee family. She wants to know, is it okay to either step back from her preaching services or from her family? How can, you find that balance?
Well, it's always hard. I think most devotees have a hard sort of choices to make when they're thinking how to balance their lives, but if you've got a young family, you really have to focus on them. You're making devotees, you're preaching, going out there to make devotees, but what about the devotees in your own home? They always say that charity begins at home, but actually there's so much that begins at home. Compassion begins at home. Everything actually begins at home. So it's really important when you've got a young family that you're focusing on your family, and maybe you have to cut back a little bit on the preaching, but you are making devotees in your family, so that's a wonderful asset, But it's in the early days, devotees did sort of neglect their children, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good for the children. Nobody neglected out of wanting to neglect. It was just that, everybody was trying to be full on, So it's important to take care of your family.
Okay, so the last question is with regards to japa. I'm just going to sum up 3 questions in one, if that's okay. So, one, is it okay to chant japa while we're driving, as this is the only time they have to chant alone? The second one is chanting. So this Vaishnavi has issued chanting alone, what recommendations can you give them? And when praying during japa, sometimes that takes your focus away from the holy name. How can we manage that? So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go backwards. So it takes your focus away. It shouldn't take your focus away. That's why we do our prayers, like we do our prayers in the beginning, you know, and we do our prayer maybe when we start to slip, and we pray to become more focused again. But at the beginning, we're doing our Sankalpa, and we're offering our prayers and respects to Sri Harinam Prabhu. So we don't want to, you know, like maybe sometime you just have to set down the beads and just, you know, pray for a little while, but then we're going back to the japa. The japa is the focus. Our japa is the focus. So if we don't make prayer the focus, but we have to have a prayerful attitude that we're longing to chant japa nicely. So you can encompass that. As you're chanting, you can still have that feeling where you're longing to chant with a focused mind. But I don't, yeah, so we don't want to sort of, you know, it is a good idea if you've got something really on your mind, you may have to stop your japa, even write it down and get it away so that you can focus again on your japa. Regarding driving when you're chanting, well, no, but the second one was being alone when you chant. Well, I'm alone every day when I chant my japa, because if I only go to I address the deities one day a week normally, and then I'm addressing the deities in japa time. So I do all my rounds alone at home, and it's actually a nice space if you can set up your Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and offer your respects as I sort of went through. It's a nice space to be able to chant on your own, because you can completely shut your eyes and just focus. You're not being distracted by hearing others or, you know. Regarding driving, it's not ideal. Prabhupada said 2 hands on the wheel, but I know these days devotees have those clicker things. If it's the only time, there's actually nothing that can stop us thinking of Krishna. There's nothing that can take us away from Krishna, only our mind. So you can actually chant in a car driving, if it's not in the city when you're stopping at lights and this and that, but if you're just sort of going along on automatic, you can focus your mind on Krishna. So if you have to chant some japa at that time, what to do? Better to chant it then than not to chant it. But the ideal is to have your japa time just for japa, completely focused on the holy names. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think that's really helpful. There's one more question, if that's okay. So this Vaishnavi wanted to ask, how can we convert a spark in one's heart towards Krishna to a wildfire?
Well, it's done by association, good association. We all, this is what we are. We're a tiny spark, and we're wanting that fire of Krishna consciousness, and that's what Prabhupada said in this when he was saying about always seeing the good side. If someone comes along, if somebody comes along to the temple, we should fan that spark and make it into fire. So if we can take up good association, because association lifts us up. If it's good association, it lifts it up. If we just kind of with friends and not sort of focusing on our Krishna consciousness, you know, you can get distraction. But if you're with, just like when we were with Srila Prabhupada, we just felt like we were in the spiritual world. So if you're with devotees that are sincere and advanced in their Krishna consciousness, they'll infect you so that your little spark can become a big fire.
Thank you so much for that. Ambika, Prabhu, we just have a feedback from one of our participants. I'm going to unmute her and she's going to say something. Her name is Nandarani. One sec.
Hi, Paul.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna. I just wanted to say how grateful I was listening to you. In the beginning, you mentioned that, you know, you haven't really given that many classes, but the way you've spoken really inspired me. And I found it very inspiring, especially the expressive way in which you explained the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. And it was really, really inspiring. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we'd like to conclude now, if that's okay with you, Ambika Prabhu. We're so grateful for your time, and I think we've taken a lot from this session. To all our viewers out there on Facebook, thank you for joining us. And Ambika Prabhu, may we please have your association again soon. And we have a really amazing lineup today. So for those who are joining us, please check out our Facebook page and the WhatsApp groups for our schedule. And yeah, we'd like to conclude. So lots of love from Tashani and me. And we hope to see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
All glories to
Glories
Srila
to Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing your